Hi. So I've determined that this American Data Privacy Act thing scares the shit out of me. Um, so this is a last ditch effort to get the truth out about what happened to me. Um, this is going to take hours for me to tell this whole story. So it's I'm trying to be brave here. Trying to be brave before they rail the entire internet. Um, I had I what was it? I had a feeling they were going to do a hard reset on the internet eventually. Uh, wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if they did a hard reset on everything. Um, don't know on timing with that, but they're going to do it. Um, and if anyway, forget the what ifs. Let's just talk about reality here. So I've spoke about the timeline memory management system before, and it's a four-way communication system. So basically, the management system has been engaged since I believe it was February 6th, 2016, a month before my dad died. It was really unusual. The effects were visual at first, so I started seeing a pair of lips moving um, in front of me. For about 6 months, there was a pair of lips hanging across my eyes, and I couldn't figure out like where the visual data was coming from because I mean, I this is what sucks about my history is that they have me in the mental illness category. They have me in on disability. Um, I'll go into more detail about that later. Um, but what was my point here? So the timeline memory management system, um, it operates on a brain frequency, a very high bandwidth brain frequency. So from what I understood initially, it took me like 6 months to like understand what was going on. Um, I heard a female voice, and I recognized the voice. Um, so slowly, I was fed information. I was fed visual information that almost seemed like a daydream. You know how you daydream? You think about something that's going to happen, but this was much more vivid. It was as if I was dreaming with my eyes open. It was that vivid. Um, I could be doing something and still experience the memories that were just being thrown at me. Um, so so I'm trying to backtrack for y'all before things get completely out of control, before they get so twisted and fucked up. Because they will get fucked up. Um, right. Can't hesitate on this shit. I just have to say what I'm gonna say and just say it. So the memory management system is really unique. I don't know how many other people experience it or um, how active it is for everyone, but apparently this is how it works. There's a console, a terminal that displays the data. It displays the data, and you can look and touch a memory, stop the memory, and comment on the memory. So this technology in the future apparently will take hundreds of years to develop, but that doesn't mean you can't communicate with the past. Um, from part of what I understand, what I have been informed about, and I mean, there's been so much information thrown at me that and now it's like fading away. It's really terrible that I'm forgetting details and stuff from it, but but it caused this whole chain of choices to be made. So based on the suggestions, the timeline memory management system, this female voice, these two separate female voices. For 6 months, I heard one voice. Okay, and it was a friend that I knew that does not talk to me anymore. Um, I'll go by first names are fine, I guess. Nobody cares about last names, and whatever, I mean, nobody cares about first names. So this Krista, okay, let's just say Krista, um, was commenting on future events and reminders. Okay, so when you think alone, you have to have notes. You have to have sticky notes or remind yourself in the morning. But if you have somebody next to you, which I don't, to remind you to do something in the morning in a normal relationship, which I've never really been in, um, they will, tell you, like, oh, you have to shower this morning. You have to go upstairs to use the bathroom then, and then you have to do this, that, and the other. So the management system was actively doing that while commenting on future events. So there was so much information being received. It was an amazing experience. It's still an amazing experience. It's iffy now. It's so distant and far away, that it's hard for me to recall everything that was said. Um, there was so there anyone has conflicts in their minds. I mean, if you're a moral person, or you have, you know questions of faith, anything in this, in our senses tend to deceive us. So um, there was an active conflict. There was an active conflict on the management system about whether it should be on or not just now. Okay, so now I'm commenting on something that they're trying to decide in the future, present, that's affecting me immediately. So here I am. I'm alarmed that they're going to shut it down. If they shut it down, I don't know. They're saying that if it's shut down, I'll be alone again. I'll have a nervous breakdown or something, and I'll lose it. Um, I'm inclined to agree. I'll tell you why. Because this thing has been like being in a relationship. It's it's been like I've had my best friend next to me for the last 4 years. So to have this, like, telepathically received information has been really special, and it's kept me comfortable enough that I don't flip out. You know, the daily reminders of what to do, the you know, a lot of it is that I hear her more than I hear me. I have heard my best friend in my head. I haven't spoken to her over the phone in years, and it's like she's right there. It's I've been trying to write this down or email it to her to let her know this is what I'm being told. And in fact, it's been telling me to send the emails. It's been telling me to send it. And I know that this is all so unbelievable, but who is to say that technology won't be developed in 200 years and won't be usable? We have so much technology now. How can, I mean, it's easily disprovable right now that there's you could easily say, well, where's the console? Where's the console? I don't see any communication. I don't see any communication between you and a telepathic receiver from 2020, uh, 2222. This is 2022, man. Who cares about, as a resident? Why is this thing doing this? Don't. What is going on? There's a delay. Stop doing this delay thing. Why do you guys do this? Why is there a delay? I don't know, but I don't like it. Anyway, I have to keep going here, regardless of delays. But so anyway, the phone's screwing with me here a little bit. But anyway, so so for me to have this I guess communication between this technology from the future and now, I understand why they would turn it on, but I mean, who's to say what choices I would have made with it off? Right? If it were just my own voice, I would have made such different choices. I would have made such different choices. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie now. There were stock tips, and I took them. And some of them were right. Some of them were right. So, might be considered insider trading, guys. I don't know. But for a technology 200 years in the future that doesn't exist anyway, are you really going to charge me with insider trading for it? Besides, I ended up losing money out on those stocks anyway, and my brother ended up suing me. So, but I think it was a verifiable thing for me that the management system was right. It was correct about certain things. So it was sort of a way for me to verify that the management system was correct about what will happen. So before I go into the what will happen, okay, and this is the scariest shit ever, man. So let's look back to my life for a year. Let's go back to 2021. So 2021, I just started working for Uber, right? What was it, 2020? Damn. Well, whenever you see this is the thing about memory. Unless you have somebody or information in front of you to verify it, you can't speculate on your own memory about dates and times, unless you absolutely know the date, the truth of that date. So let's just say 1776. That's the American independence. That is like that. That's a verifiable fact. That's everybody in the country knows that verifiable fact. It's easily rememberable and memorable. So anyway, verifiable facts aside, I'd been working. My job shut down during the quarantine. The quarantine was the scariest shit ever too. I knew for me, like I just when everybody was quarantining, I was just like in 2020. What was it, March when it started? So that's 2 years ago now. Let's backtrack 2 years. Forget last year, because last year was all right. I mean, things kind of like reached a high point in 2021, and it was still a little scary, but things reached a high point when things kind of normalized, and spent a lot of money and whatever. But things just were kind of like recovering and opening up and what have you. But 2020, when quarantine started, that night, the night they said, "Oh, we're quarantining," I went right over to the gas station and bought a pack of cigarettes like it was nothing. Like, because for me, there was already a conspiracy. There really is to me a conspiracy that goes beyond the quarantine. There was an event 10 plus years ago, 12 years ago, and I will never forget this day. And that day, it's on repeat 24/7. It's like you know how you remember your first girlfriend or your first kiss. Um, that's what 7/2/2010 is to me. That's what July 2nd, 2010 is to me. It's a memory that's constantly on repeat. I relive it every day. Um, Nobody believes me about it. Um, Before I start going into July 2nd, 2010, and all the stuff that happened back then. Um, and I mean that day happened all at once. And when I tell you this story, it happened all at once. um, let's go. Let's stay with the quarantine thing here. So the day of the quarantine, I went to buy a pack of cigarettes at the gas station. I just did not care. I just did not care. To me, it's still bullshit. Unless I see under an electron microscope the virus itself, and you can prove to me that's what's actually, uh, killing people, then I call me a COVID denier or whatever, but I think there's a deeper conspiracy here that has it's going to sound extremely narcissistic, paranoid, um, but ever since July 2nd, 2010, when that day in history for me is really the way I look at it now. Um, it's when democracy ended anyway. Because for me, the day that night, okay, July 1st, right? I was at home here. I was right in this house, and I what did I do the week prior? Um, so I was still with a mental health team at the time. Um, they really screwed me up pretty bad. Um, you know, I'm glad I left. The this event that occurred is what made me realize my own self importance, that I didn't need their help anyway. Um, and I don't want it. Um, but let's let's focus here for a second on the importance of information and what people tell you about themselves, about the truth of who they are. So some people in life reframe, as they say. They reconfigure the truth or the memories so that it makes more sense, so that they're protected, so that they have a safety net in case they look back on it and say, well, that's not the way it happened. No, that's not the way it happened. Um, this is the way it happened. The coulda, woulda, shoulda is what does it. I have, as an extremely intelligent bipolar person, um, I have crystal clear 2020 memory, or 20. I want to say 2019, because there's a few blackouts. There's one or two blackouts in my life that I can't recall certain things. I was in a psychiatric ward for about 3 weeks, where I couldn't, I can't, I still don't know what happened. I know they had me on like Clonopin. I know they had me on Clonopin. They may have given me ECT, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. But on release, I came home. I'm like, they showed me the calendar and everything. I'm like, I was in there for 3 weeks. What happened? I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. You know? Scary. Very scary. The only other time I blacked out before that was London. London. I got pissed drunk. I got so drunk. I've never been drunker than that. Um, I ended up in a bar with my mother's stepson, who was the bartender there, and I got wave after wave after wave of free drinks. So I just kept downing vodka with orange juice, vodka with cranberry, vodka, just wave after wave. He got me so blasted that I think within a half hour, I don't know what I did, but I blacked out. And the last thing I remember is that he was basically, I was over his shoulder and he was dragging me out. He was dragging me out, and then when I got home, to the flat, which was uh, the former address was on Haldane Road. I'm not going to give the exact number, um, but it was on Haldane Road in Fulham. Um, there actually, I don't know if there still is, but there was actually a bar right across from Haldane Road, and this is back in the 2006 2007. This is unimportant, but it's still, you know, um, that wasn't the bar I went to, by the way. It was, the hell if I know what bar it was, but anyway, the stepson got me so drunk, and I was in bed that night. My mom said, uh, my mom tucked me in or whatever, but the next morning, oh, I was puking everywhere in that toilet, man. Ah, man, that was the most drunk I've ever gotten. I was totally blasted within 15 minutes. 15 minutes, half hour. At least that's how it seems. I might have gotten worse than that. I don't know. But I just kept wave after. I didn't know I'd black out. I didn't know I'd black out. I just kept drinking without knowing my limits. When you're at the time, I was what, 20, 19 or 20, I think. Right? If it's 2007, it's gonna be, yeah, 19 or 20. I was about 19 or 20, 21 maybe, and I just got blasted, man. I got blasted. I still, to this day, the stepson never told me what I did in that bar, why he had to like drag me home and everything. Like, I was literally over his shoulder. But those are the only two instances I can recall blacking out in. Um, when they had me on this medication, Clozaril, for they had me on it for a good 10 years before I was able to fortunately get off of it. It's very potent medication. I think it's dangerous because um, the sedating effects it has. There's um, an opioid thing with it too. I don't know if it's that it affects the opioid receptors, um, but I don't like that Clozaril at all. It definitely is. It definitely is so strong that you will sleep off most of the day, and when you get up, you just have a pounding headache. It's the worst. It's the worst. It really it makes me feel so weak. Um, it's manufactured in China, and from what I've read, um, they prescribe it to 90% of the population out there. They prescribe it to 90% of the population in China. Uh, so that should tell you something. That should tell you something right away about why they give it out. Um, they have me misdiagnosed. They don't understand what I'm going through or what I'm experiencing. Um, so just to kind of like stay on topic here. All right. So we're talking about privacy, data, um, freedom of information. Um, there's a game called Alpha Centauri. So in Alpha Centauri, one of the characters that you can play, I think it's Commissioner Pravin Lal. I don't know if anybody remembers this game. I doubt you can pick up a copy anymore, or unless you check out eBay really hard. Um, they might even censor that game at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they censored it. Um, That game is really intense, by the way. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. So, in one of the speeches that the character gives in part of the technology discovery that you can learn from in the game, uh, beware the leader or the government that would restrict you from information, for they would deem you their master. So there you go. There you go, right there. Does the United States government deem themselves your master? Man, such a reversion of the ideals that I was brought up with. You know, um, then again, in the '90s, you know, I I was still a kid. There were basically no handheld cell phones that you could bring into class. There was no internet until the late '90s, and and the access to that information was limited to me anyway. True story. True story here now. My mom, my mom had a child protection lock on her 486 33 Packard Bell, and she she had it password encoded, and I was just thinking it through, and the first thing that came to me for that child protection lock was MOM. And guess what? It worked. It unlocked the child protection lock. I never told her that I did it. And I went up and down the internet with that computer. I went up and down. I found Jenny McCarthy for the first time. Um, I found so much access to information that it blew my mind how much information was available to adults on the internet. I was so freaking amazed as to how much information, especially like adult information, that I'm like, what is this? I can order books online. I can look at porn. What is all this shit? This is great. you know. And then the only reason I did it was that I wanted to play my games without having to enter into the child safety log. There was she wouldn't let me use it from certain times, and I got frustrated. I got frustrated because she'd be on there, she'd be emailing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with one of her lovers. My mom was always trying to seek out more love and attention, um, probably probably more than she deserved. Um, so she she basically back in when we still lived in the apartment in California, she had a stack this tall of emails. I wish I read those fucking emails, man. If I were a smarter kid, I would have read that stack of emails. Um, she had it right next to my bed. We had bunk beds. And crazily enough, she had this stack of emails right next to my bed. And I know it was all communiques between her and boyfriends and friends that she was making online through AOL. Um, she ended up calling AOL AOL eventually. Um, she was slick. She was slick. My mom was slick, man. Until when she ended up passing away in 2011, unfortunately from cirrhosis. She's a heavy drinker, so with that being, I don't drink very often, and when I do, it's maybe a glass of red wine here and there, but not often. Um, that blackout experience I just told you about, that was enough to stop me from drinking heavily. I don't like losing memory. I don't like losing control. Um, just don't like it. Don't like it. Um, don't like not knowing what I'm doing. don't like not knowing what I'm doing because I tend to think that innately people have a lot of anger. Um, there's sorry, I thought I saw a ghost in the mirror. Uh, People have a lot of buried feelings and thoughts, and I think any medication or drug or or thing that you're putting in your body is going to affect what comes out of that mouth. So, that being said, whoa, almost lost control of the phone here out of my hands. That being said, and by the way, I am I've had nothing. I'm not on any, what do you call it? I'm not drinking. It's occasional cigarettes, pack a day smoker. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can call that whatever you want, but keeps me from flipping out on the daily, as people say these days. Uh, so what's going on here? So yeah, you know, I when I first got access to the internet, I was so fascinated that I could research history, that I could even pull up websites where there was um there literally was active terrorists. There was a website it's gone now. It was called QOQAZ.net. I believe that the servers were shut down. They were shut down eventually, but it was the Chechen resistance fighting the Russians for years. I think for about a year the website was up, and then they took it down. It was pretty scary because there was active gun shooting and propaganda. Um, that was when the internet was it was a freaking it was a free for all. Let's be honest. In 1999, the internet was a free for all. There were no data protections, really. There were no data protections. Everybody could do whatever the fuck they wanted for the most part. You know. Um, now it's 2022 and the internet bandwidth is higher, much higher. 10 years it's going to be even higher. You know, 6G is supposed to be in 2029. So, I mean, and that's crazy. You're talking about tachyon signals between two different computers. That's wild that they were able to do that. It shouldn't surprise some, but in only 10 years you're supposed to come out with tachyon transmissions between two different computers. That's unbelievable to me. To think that you're going to get faster than light communication between two different computers in 10 years is really amazing. By 2029 they say we'll have 6G. um, with that being said, the quality of video will be great. It'll be fantastic. The communication will be flawless, but by then there's going to be so many security restrictions on who can use the internet, two, what gets sent over the internet, three, when and how you can send it, and what it will cost. There's a there's a uh, uh, a point I want to discuss. There's actually three or four points I want to bring up, um, that are related to my own personal privacy, and I'm giving that up. I'm giving that up. Fuck it. There's this internet privacy thing. It's just, to me, it's a clear indication that the government is going to authoritarianly engage the surveillance state to the point where everything gets taken over anyway, or we all get watched. So, fuck it. Fuck it. Um, so at this point, this point, I'm being as honest as possible in the most logical way I can, and it still must come off completely insane. But um, here's what my my thing is that as a kid, as a kid, just back to personal history. Um, I had a pretty decent normal life for the most part. Watch TV, play some video games, go to school, do my homework, see my grandparents, see my mom. My dad was kind of out of the picture for a good 10 years, um, and that was pretty much it. I had one friend really that I trusted. Um, yeah, one good friend I trusted, and um, eventually, like my parents, like decided to move and pulled me away from my everything I believed in out in California, and I just felt very betrayed by that. But as a kid, I didn't have I up until I unlocked that child protection lock on. I'm gonna take off these glasses, by the way. Forget the glasses. Um, Up until I had that child protection lock, God, um, I I had no idea. I had no idea, and I wanted more of it. I wanted to know more. Um, there's got to be some kid out there who just unlocked the internet for the first time, and they're like, "Holy shit!" Like, "Holy shit, man, this is awesome." Um, there's something to be said though about there being a veil over your eyes too. Personally, I wouldn't have survived if it weren't for my exposure to information. And now that they're restricting that, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's gonna reduce the perception, one, that people can, the possible perceptions that people can have. It's gonna limit the potential growth for people to have too. Um, Three, some of us are broke. Okay, as a kid, you're broke. You don't know. I mean, maybe you get an allowance, or you're a rich kid. I was not a rich kid, man. Um, I was kind of like, you know, I would get lunch money, and I would pocket the lunch money and not eat, so I could buy a comic book. Um, Now I wish I invested it in stocks, and somebody would have had a financial background and told me, "Hey, why don't you buy some stocks with those quarters?" I would have bought AMD early on. I really would have. I would have been, fuck. Anyway, anyway, or Amazon, whatever. Well, at the time, Amazon would have flew. But anyway, besides the what ifs again. Um, so the 4 points that I want to make about the internet privacy thing is, perception. You're going to affect people's perception. Two, uh, the education level. You're going to immediately drop the education level. Um, Three, okay, and this is the big thing. It's communication. Communication is survival. It is survival in any society. Um, as long as you can communicate with somebody else, you can survive. You can establish a relationship. You can continue to function. If I can't ask you, well, if I can't verify or ask you something from my mom, for example, my mom, asked me to come out to London in 2007, from 3,000 miles away. 3,000 miles away across the internet. Or no, it was a phone call. It was a phone call. It was a phone call. But, I had communications between her through the internet too. But, and I think they're going to restrict that too eventually. But, um, I mean, they do. They do in some part. They do in some part already. They do in some part already. I mean, now they have ransomware blocking, and one of these old hackers tried to get me to give him Bitcoin, and it was pretty desperate. It was pretty desperate. There was no way I was giving him Bitcoin, but I was pretty pissed off that this guy would even, attempt to you get money off me. It was very bizarre. I should be. I mean, I should feel honored now that this guy would even bother. But I just I look back to certain things that happened on my computer, right? So when I got my I had access to information, I had communication. So when I moved to New York, I still had communication with my friend out in California. It wasn't very often. But I knew that he was on AOL Instant Messenger. And AOL Instant Messenger was the first fucking social network. I'm telling you, it was the first social network out there. I know they had, wow, it's so long since I've used it. ICQ was another one. Got forums and stuff, but forums are a different breed. They're a different breed, I think. That's more about, for a long time, from 99 to about 2010, I spent most of my internet life, most of my personal life, browsing one forum for most of my life. For most of that period, 99 to about 2010. Eventually, somebody took down the forum. There was too much information on it, I think. But they eventually kind of tried to reboot it, and it's not the same now. Nobody uses it really. So, but my life was basically on that forum. My life was living that forum every day, looking for more information, looking for approval. And I realized most of these guys these internet friends are beyond nerdy. They're beyond my nerd level. I'm broke, so I can't afford subscriber-based services. I can't watch Netflix. I can't watch Amazon. I can't watch fucking Hulu Prime or whatever, or Disney Plus. So, I'm restricted as to how much TV I can watch, which is another thing that I mean, be honest here, I watch whatever's free on the internet. So where does that put me? You figure that one out. It's either YouTube or YouPorn at this point, So, and then, I mean, you got other free stuff too. You got CNBC. I know there's those low quality streaming services too that pop up. Not even worth watching. I have a friend that does that. He says, "Oh, but this one looks okay, man. Maybe you should watch through this one. It looks okay." Okay's not good enough for me. Okay's not good enough. I have to watch this in high def. I have to actually see the faces. Okay's not good enough. So free information is so important in a free society. So my alarm is this, is that we're unbecoming a free society anyway. We're basically we're we're taking the platform that was, the constitutional standards, and we've amended them so many times that it's I mean, if anybody read back the Constitution, would they even understand it at this point? Would they really understand the constitutional laws being applied, or there's an interesting, and this was pre-informed to me. I'm going to turn on the light here because it's getting dark. um, Lights off. Oh man. Okay, there we go. So there's an interesting thing that the management system informed me about, and this is the Article 9 statement. There shall be no enumeration or disparaging of the people. Now, the reason it was, coming from the future, telling me here and now. I had a situation with my brother where he attempted to control my assets through a guardianship conservatorship, and this is so traumatizing to me that I had to go through this, in the middle of all this stuff that I'm trying to resolve. In fact, hold on a second, because I've got to use the bathroom real quick. I've got to use the bathroom. Thank God you don't have to be told to do that. At 36. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm sorry. You lost about a minute and a half of me there because I had to use the John. Um, okay, so let's go on here with my events here, and the current climate, the current issue with internet privacy. I get the part about wanting to protect individual identities. My identity, I believe, has been stolen. Uh, yeah, I believe my identity's been stolen. I, I mean, at this point, I don't have anybody helping me. I don't know what to do about it. What can and I mean, um, I don't know what else to do about it at this point. So, what else is going on here? Turn this way so you can see me in the light there. So, god damn, I'm still ugly no matter no matter which way you look. So my reasoning is this. Again, it goes back to that quote from that video game. Um, Beware he who would restrict you from information, for they would deem you their master. Um, it's a scary thought. It's a scary thought that had I been given access to enough information for me to judge someone else and say, well, should I really trust this person based on what I know? Based on what I'm reading, you know, should I trust this individual? You know, and the answer to that would probably be no. Would probably be no. And the scary thing for me is that when I was a kid, okay, I somebody took a mortgage out under my name. Somebody took a mortgage out under my name from South Dakota or North Dakota, some sort of bank. And I only found out about it because I started working for a mortgage company, and they let me look at my credit report. And they showed me, you have a mortgage under your name, but it hasn't been paid out in years. So I'm like, no, but that can't be. I would have been like, if this is true, it's 1987. I would have been like, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old. Couldn't be. And so I reported it. I reported it to the credit bureau. I called the bank. The bank just kept ringing. It wasn't even an answer machine. It was just a landline that kept ringing. And that's the scariest thing, man. When you find shit like that, when you find something where your information is obscured, and or it's out there. It's out there. Somebody could find that, and it's just out there. So my information, somebody used my information as a kid, as an unknowing kid, and exploited me for financial gain. For financial gain. That's wild, man. That's wild. We to this day, I do not know what the outcome of that was. Whether the FBI investigated or anyone else investigated. I know it was removed from my credit report, but man, that was so alarming to me that I was in shock when I found out about that mortgage being on my my social on my social. Anyway, 2001, we hit a milestone prior to the events on September 11th. We had unquenchable amount of information thrown at us. We had so much information. I would cut school. I cut school for 40 days at that point. Prior to September 11th, I was cutting school since I'm right. If it was right, I think it was like January or March, April. I ended up cutting, and I would call in as my mom. I would impersonate my mom, and this is something that I learned through that memory of mine. I would be like, "This is Debbie Canavan. My son Sean is sick today. He can't come in. He won't be able to make it in tonight. He won't be able to make it into school. So he's going to be sick. He's going to be in bed." It was a fucking hack, and I didn't even know it. I was freaking. So I freaking got out of school by calling in as my mom, and it was just awesome to do that every time I didn't want to come in. And seriously, this is what I would do. I would go to the downstairs computer. I'd either play Diablo, or I'd go and watch porn. Seriously, that's what I would do. It was great. I didn't need anything else. It was just like, well, fuck all that. I could just stay at home. I could just cut and call in as my mom and say I'm not gonna. My son can't make it. you know. Um, it worked. It worked like a charm. At some point, though, when the trade centers got hit, okay, serious now. I cut school that day too. I didn't want to go in. Um, I ended up. I was in the basement, sleeping. I couldn't move. Wasn't watching anything. I wasn't on the computer or anything. I was just sleeping all day. And I ended up hearing my mom come in early, and she was saying, terrorists. And I'm like, what's she talking about? There's terrorists? She worked in Oceanside at the time at Salon Montage. Salon Montage. It's still around. I don't know if they do as much business, but Salon Montage is still around in Oceanside. Oceanside, New York, by the way. So anyway, she came in the front door at like, I don't know, 12 o'clock. It was like 12 o'clock. I remember it being like 12 o'clock because there was on the TV downstairs, there was a the clock that read 12. And I remember her like shouting into the landline, terrorists. And this goes back to access to information, you know. So, she was, I don't know who she was talking to at the time, but I'm like, what are terrorists doing in Oceanside? And I hid downstairs in the basement. I was still listening, but I hid downstairs in the basement. God, I'm getting tired. I hid downstairs in the basement, and she was just like alarmed. She was very alarmed, and I was hiding in the house. I didn't want her to know I was in the house. So I went upstairs eventually to try to sneak out. And I was going to sneak out and go to school because I wanted to make it look like that I had gone to school and came home early. And my dad walked in the back door and saw me. And I just stopped. Like, I stopped cold because I didn't know what he was going to say. So when my dad walked in the door, he said, so what, did they send you home early? Did they send you guys home early? And I'm like, yeah. They sent us home early. And he was just like, oh, so you heard what happened, right? And I just nodded my head, yeah. And he walked right past me, and I'm like, what ended up happening, right, is that I followed him upstairs. I went into the kitchen, and my mom was still on the phone, and my dad turned on the TV, and there it was. The two trade centers getting shut down by those planes. I didn't cry. I didn't cry about it. I just kind of like looked at it like I think everybody did, as if it were a movie, as if it were a movie on playing out. And it took me a while to realize that this is real. This really happened. This is on the news. This isn't just some scene in a movie. This really happened. I think after that, I became very patriotic. That a lot of that was going on. I was glad to be alive. In fact, I was exalted that I was alive. I was so happy to be alive that I started acting out in class. I literally would I just would act out. I would be myself. I would actually be more than myself. I would try to be heroic, almost to the point of being humorous. Um, yeah, that's what I would do. I would be heroic to the point of being humorous. That it just looked like a fool's errand at the end of the day. Um, so anyway, what if they were to start doing that, restricting you from important national information like that, where boom, boom, there's a terrorist event, there's a horrible event like that, and they decide, well, we don't want the public to know about this. And I'm sure there's got to be classified shit out there that's so. In fact, I'm gonna unlock a classified item while while we're in discuss. I don't care at this point. They're gonna restrict all access to stuff for me anyway. I'm sure. Um, so the timeline memory management system might as well be a classified item at this point. Um, you know, it bugs me that I didn't take more notes on what was being told or said. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm in shock that for the last 4 years of my life now, from 2022 to basically the beginning of 2016. So I guess that makes it what, 6 years, rather 6 years. But it's 2022 now, and for 6 years, this memory management system has been communicating with me, and I was so fascinated with it that it became an attachment, and I am so in love with the thought of this technology having communicated with me now, that it alarms me that it's gone now. That for some reason they have decided to terminate the signal. Um, Nothing's changed really with medications or anything. So to me, this was a decision for them to do it. Um, you know, it was very enabling. It was very powerful. It was almost as if I had somebody outside looking in, um, commenting on all the moments in my life that I was remembering, but also stuff that hadn't happened yet simultaneously. It was just amazing. Um, if some of this technology exists in the future, there is no way, there is no way that in 200 years they will allow this same situation with the management system to exist for others. I'll tell you why, and this is going to scare the absolute shit out of you. Okay, this is going to be the scariest part of what I tell you guys here. Um, and this goes to July 2nd, 2010. Okay. And no, it's still, my brother doesn't believe it. My family discards it as if it were just the talks of a madman. Um, but on July 1st, 2010, I had an epiphany. I was laying down in my bed, and this very bed here, and I woke up and I said, "What was I right about?" Well, there was something I was right about. What was I right about? And I said, "You know what? I remember. If an object is displaced in time, it will always return to its point of origin." I woke up, right? I woke up from that, from a memory that I had about a dream, okay? A dream that I was on a starship. Okay, I know this is so flipped out. This is so flipped out to everybody, but I had a dream while I was in a psych ward in 2002 that I was on a starship looking out of a window. And in that dream, I'm just looking out the window. I have the cape on, and somebody's looking at me. Um, and then I woke up, and and I mulled over it for years and years and years, and tried to figure out, like, could that be real in some way? Could that dream be real? And you know what? And this is really going to twist your mind later. It is. It's a real moment. It hasn't happened yet, though. So who's to say how far the technology will go in 10 years? Who's to say whether I won't be able to afford a trip to space with a cape on and looking out of the ISS or something, um, overlooking Earth. So it isn't such a fantasy. It isn't such so unbelievable. Um, but the part of the logic for that theory, okay, is that the only way you could return to Earth, okay, it is if you left it. Okay, so if you left Earth, right, from 2022 in a starship, you would have to inevitably return to your point of origin. You'd have to return to Earth to breathe, to live. So that's where it came from. That's where part of the theory came from. You'd have to return to Earth eventually. You'd have to return to the cradle. What's the old saying? I forget who I'm quoting here, but I think it was. Shoot, he was a rocket scientist. To be honest with you, I know he was a rocket scientist, the Russian rocket scientist, and it might have been Tchaikovsky or something like that. I forget who it was, but he basically had said that Earth is the cradle of the mind. One cannot live in the cradle forever. So I've been living in the cradle for far too long. I know how that sounds, but I mean, I've lived a pretty narrow life, to be honest with you. I've lived a pretty narrow life. I've been in the same house for pretty much I don't know, 25, 30 years, depending on how you looked at it. Um, but I can't afford. I haven't been able to afford because of my disability, because of the category I'm put in. Um, they give you a check that just gets you by month to month. Um, it's not really a settlement. It's not really a settlement that I feel is, and they tax it too. If you make too much money, they'll take it right back. They'll take it right back, which is so fucked up. Let me tell you why. Because I've been 2 years of my life were spent in psych wards. 2 years of my life have gone into psychiatric wards because no one understands my thinking. Um, and when I do express it, I get punished for it. So, oh, you sound manic to me, buddy. You sound manic, and that's the answer. He's manic. Definitely needs medication. I think later on they're going to recategorize mental health anyway, maybe even to disinform, maybe to have conformity. Um, so back to the days of September 11th, 2001. So in 2001, okay, when I saw the trade centers go down, I didn't cry. I didn't shout or scream at my mom or anything. But I did go back to school the next day. I forged a note that said, and I mean, another scary thing. They're restricting pens and pencils in psychiatric wards now. Restriction of information. I'm telling you, they are so up to no good with this. They are so up to no good. They're trying to prevent society from breaking down, and by all means, They're causing its existence. So I know that's hard to wrap around, but it's like the father telling the child, "Well, you can't. You're misbehaving. You can't have your toys. You can't have your toys." So they're trying to take the toys away. They're trying to take the toys away from everything. And I think that goes with the privacy laws. The internet's such a powerful toy. It's a toy. It's a powerful toy. But once you take away the big toys, the big parts of the toy, who the fuck wants to play with the toy anymore anyway? You know? I mean, you're telling me I can't do this on there, I can't do that on there, then fuck that. I don't want to play with the toy anymore. You're telling me pretty much this thing is broken? I don't want to play with that toy. That's the way I look at it. I mean, if I didn't have access to even like CNN, I'd be flipping out. I would be so questioning the sincerity of everything else I was being told on the internet. I mean, I know you have other outlets that are still free press or somewhat free press. And there's other channels that are below the radar that are internet only stuff. Sorry. But if CNN were gone, I would be so alarmed. I'd be so alarmed. I really would be. Because for me, even the military says you hear it on CNN before we figure out about it, before we learn about it. I mean, that goes for the trade centers. Like, it was all over CNN. So most of the guys that were out of state, that weren't part of the chain of command, they found out about it from CNN. So, funny story. Okay, and you'll probably hear me say this on CNN at some point, when I am on CNN. So it took me about a year to reason with what happened on September 11th, 2001. It took me about a year. When I kind of like figured out, like, I wanted to join the Marines. But one thing scared me about what came out of September 11th, 2001, that I opposed immediately. I read through it and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all, because it was the stepping stone that is these Internet Privacy Acts now. The Patriot Act. Okay, the Patriot Act was so executively controlled, so scary to me, that legislation actually got passed. It actually violates the Constitution for that to have even been passed. In my opinion, that was a violation of our rights for that to exist, because it meant that at any time, if you were a terrorist threat, or if you wanted to phone in a citizen for a terrorist threat, you could the Patriot Act would allow the FBI to do that. The FBI to just raid a house. I don't know if you guys remember, but people were swatting for a bit. That was pretty crazy. I'm gonna be honest about something else. You know what? I'm gonna wait on that a little bit. Let me stay with the narrative here about September 11th. So I forged a note. To get into class, and it was supposed to be my mom's handwriting, and I came in late, and she just shook her head no. But she let me in anyway. She let me back in class. But I was like flipping the fuck out though. In my mind I was flipping the fuck out. There was this sense of being alive that I haven't felt in a long time. I was unmedicated, so I wasn't sedated or I wasn't drinking either. As a ninth grader, I was, I'd been a Boy Scout, so, courteous, kind, trustworthy, always prepared. Stay away from drinking, stay away from smoking. Uh, but around 10th grade in April 2021, or 2020, where the fuck am I? 2002, I smoked my first joint. I smoked my first joint. April 2002. Yeah. Memories, man. Um, a lot of people say, like, that first joint, you don't feel anything. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything initially. But I remember saying to the guys, like, I didn't really want to smoke it. So I was like, yeah, I don't feel so good. I left. I took like two hits, maybe, and then I left. But it must have had some kind of effect. Some THC got into me. Um, there was actually a Sean Canavan, that's, my name, a Sean Thomas Canavan that died in the Trade Center. And I used to read into that for years. Like, I thought that I was supposed to have died in the Trade Center. Um, I really did. I thought I was gonna be. I thought they were targeting me. That I was gonna be a dead man in the Trade Center. Um, you know that my theory was that there was supposed to be a school trip that day, and had I gone to school that day, I would have gone to the trip and gotten hit. That was my theory, but I don't think that there was no school trip out to the Trade Center, um, as far as I know. Yeah, there was no school trip out to the Trade Center that day. Um, so, with freedom of information, we do have our vulnerabilities. I've been hacked. I've been hacked several times. It was thrilling. It sucked. It sucked. It was this feeling of complete loss and being violated, but it was thrilling, and it made me realize my own potential as a user, a user of the internet. I realized, well, what the fuck? Like, this guy deleted emails on me. He went through my personal email. He deleted emails on me. He or she. So we can't always assume it's a he. Um, sorry. I'm just trying to use my other hand here. So he or she deleted other emails on me, and um, I was just like pissed. I was pissed off to no end, and I panicked too, because these emails that came from this girl were so threatening to me and so derogatory that I swore I would have kept them for the rest of my life. They're gone now. So I don't have any evidence of what she said or did. But they really were hurtful. They were really hurtful. Um, she may have been drunk or high when she said it, but they were really hurtful things. So. Anyway, so freedom of information. So, in the next 10 years, you're not going to be able to do the same shit with hacking anymore. It's almost over. The glory days of hacking, what you had in the 90s, 2000, even between 2010 and 2020, and the current date now, they're about to end, guys. The golden age of hacking is almost over. So that's why I'm telling you guys all this shit now, because it's about to the shit is about to fucking go down so hard on everybody, as far as what information's available, who gets exposed to it, and why. Um, yeah, yeah. There's going to be just so many limitations on freedom of information, I think. Um, you know, uh, so going back to September 11th, and the next day, I started going back to class, and I had been told by the math teacher in my 10th grade math class, Mr. Cluckstow, Mr. Cluxto. That's not his real name. I'm leaving out a letter. So there's somebody who would get that. There was somebody who would get that joke. Why I'm saying Cluxto, Mr. Cluxto. Um, but so anyway, I was told to go to the front of the class, and I did that. I sat down in the chair. He told me which desk to sit in, and I see this girl in front of me, and this is my way of communicating. I said to her, can I touch your hair? And she said, yeah. So I touched her hair, and I fell in love. Her hair felt so good. It felt so good. This black silky hair. Um, yeah, I still cry thinking about that. I really do. I fell in love with this girl, and I like to think for a while she fell in love with me. Um, she's a woman now, rather strong one too. She's she doesn't take much shit, I don't think, but you know, old first loves die hard. They really do. Anyway, you know, I actually had an issue with the school psychologist. Um, I had placed a phony phone call, so I played back the end quote from the Matrix. So at the end of the Matrix, okay, right? There's that line where Neo says, "I don't know how this is going to end, but you know, there's a world without you." And whatever that the entirety of that quote is, like, whoa, you know, I don't know how this is going to end, but I do know how it'll begin. With a world without you. And he got so like, oh my god, he placed a prank call where they said, and this is I got arrested. He phoned it in. I got charged with harassment, and I don't know if what exactly what transpired. I was only in the cell for, I don't know, in holding, not in the cell, but holding for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I mean, fuck it. I'm just telling you guys everything. I don't care. Um, I was in the cell, the holding cell for 2 hours. They let me go. They didn't tell me what the outcome was or let me know. But my dad came and picked me up, and he basically said, his reasoning was that he said a world without me in it, and I didn't. I just took this playback from the Matrix soundtrack from the movie and played it back on the school psych answering machine, and it caused this entire situation to develop between me and the school psychologist. He took it as a threat to himself, and it was never the same. He just did not like me after that. Um, you know, until like 2002, I was good. I was good, and then I became very narcissistic. So one thing after another happened. With we had the trade centers. I smoked my first joint in April of 2002, and then what happened was that I kept reading into the information. I kept reading into it. I started accumulating it. At some point, the TV was on, and for some reason, and this is the thing that strikes me, is that I was watching I was sitting down watching the TV, and there was a church, and they were all looking at the camera with gold, riches, all kinds of shit. And I just said to myself, "Oh, that must be for me. Wow, I better go to church now." So I got excited. I went out the front door. I went out the front door. I ran down the block, and because I was so excited, of course, they're waiting for me. They're waiting for Sean Canavan to save them. Um, I took off all my clothes and ran naked. So I run naked to Zach Dannon's house. And I'm shouting to Zach. I'm shouting to Zach Dannon. Uh, Zach, Zach, I'm on CNN. I'm on CNN, Zach. So there's the CNN story for you. I'm on CNN, Zach. And Zach is just like laughing. He's laughing hysterically. Next thing you know, there's an ambulance. There's cops. All these people are in on his block are out of their houses, and here I am, just like, but I have to go to church now, guys. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm going to church now. So I started walking, but the cops stopped me. And he said, "Who are you?" And I go, "Jesus." And he's like, "Okay, we're gonna cuff you." He didn't read me my fucking Miranda's, man. He didn't read me any of the mental health rules or any of that shit. It was this old guy, and he just said, "We're gonna cuff you." And he put a robe on me and put me in the back of the ambulance, and that was it. Um, my ego was going crazy now. I'm in an ambulance now. My ego is just so super inflated that I can feel, at that point, I'm feeling my left lung go up, this energy going up my left lung, and then whoosh, the other side, my right lung, and then going back down. And it was just like my vision was hyper accelerated. It was hyper vivid. Like I was totally self aware. I don't know if it was the joint, but at that point, I was very alarmed that I didn't know what was. I'm cuffed at this point, and my ego is just like, it's making so many checks it can't cash that now most of those checks that I could have made will never ever be cashed by anyone in existence now. They can't be made up for. That's it. Once I went down that path, that was pretty much game over before it started. It I didn't realize that at the time. As a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old running naked for the first time, you don't realize you don't realize what you're doing necessarily, and then the consequences become available to you after the fact. Sadly, it was after the fact that they took me to the ER. My dad showed up. My therapist showed up too, which was interesting. I didn't know why she was there, to be honest. Like, I don't know how she got there, and I'm just very surprised to see her. Um, you know, but the doctors are like talking to me and asking me these questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have magical powers? And of course, I'm like, yes, I have magical powers. What else is there to say? When you feel like you're magical at that point, then you're, they call it magical thinking now, but at the time, I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of magical thinking. Um, to me, it was just this event, this thing that I had to explain to everyone. This need to save everybody. This, I guess, my brother says, don't make yourself a martyr. Meanwhile, the way I see it, I'm already a martyr pretty much anyway. So, uh, yeah. So anyway, I'm thinking forward here, I'm still thinking back to that ER, and I will never forget that chain of events. Um, so here I am in the psych ER, and the one of the nurses takes her stethoscope and puts it to my chest, and she goes and leaps up and steps away. She couldn't believe how fast my heartbeat was. Um, I guess I was hyperactive. I was beating so fast. So uh, so anyway, yeah. I At that point I'm panicking. I'm panicking because now I see two doors. I see a door to my left, a door to my right, and I'm like, well, I have to run. I have to pick a door though to go out of. So do I pick the door that I came in through to the left, or do I pick the door to the right that I haven't gone through yet? And what door do you think I chose? I picked the door I haven't gone through yet. I know that sounds funny. But I, so I stood up from the hospital bed, and I was, looking around, and my dad's like, Sean, what are you doing, Sean? And then boom, I ran through that right door, the door I've never been through before, so fast that I thought I was going to escape the hospital. I didn't know what they were going to do with me. So, shittily enough, it ended up leading right into a child's adolescent psych unit. That was the beginning of the end for that. Game over, start here, man. So immediately, like I'm trying to get out by every door like I can. I'm trying to any means I can get out. I'm trying to get out, and they don't know who. Like at the time, I didn't realize they don't know who I am. They don't know who I am. They don't know who this kid is or why I'm there. But I literally am like at that point. I'm in like this state of euphoria, and then all of a sudden I'm panicking again, and I'm scared, and I feel weak. I felt so weak all of a sudden, like I felt this heavy weight in my stomach, and I didn't just shiver. I shrank. I shrank down. I shrank. I saw this woman, and I said to her, where's your sense of fun and adventure? Where's I mean, it was a stupid thing for a kid to say, but she looked at me with such disgust. I don't know what her problem was. Now I kind of do because I saw her again. I see what her problem is. She's just older, a little more cynical about life now. So that's what happens when you get older. I mean, I'm getting to that point too where I'm starting to become, I'm only more mature because I've learned the lessons. I'm only more mature because I've learned the lessons. But if you never learn the lesson, then you can never truly be mature anyway. You know. So what was it Yoda said? Like you must unlearn what you have learned. And I think I think that's the internet privacy thing, man. They want us to unlearn it all. They want us to unlearn all that shit that we've acquired, all that precious data, all the data hoarding. Um, it's not gonna. They want the next generation to unlearn it. They don't want them to know it. They don't want them to know it. I could be wrong, but that's my perception. And with this, this you know this data privacy thing, uh, I think it's more about control than anything else, and you know, um, restriction of information. Uh, you can't like. I think back to that hacker that hacked into my email and deleted my emails from my friend, um, and to me, to me, if you you if you take away that access, and society will break down. It'll break down. There'll be a disinformation, and with so much disinformation already, then what happens after that? What happens after that? you know um I don't see anything good. First of all, hold on, sorry, I gotta get up. I just got a momentary distraction here. Anyway, um you know it's that old friend of mine, man. Anyway, this is really important to talk about because it's she just sent me a text message. She's very upset with me right now, which she has her reasons for that. She has her reasons for that. So, being nothing but honest can be hurtful to some. It can be hurtful. So, you know, um, that being, I ever since 2010, ever since July 2nd, 2010, I've learned to be nothing but honest. Um, I have nothing to lose. If Let me explain that part. Okay, so let's fast forward from 2002, post psych ward. So in a psych ward, you develop a certain mentality about what you're hearing, what you're being told what to do. It really alters your thinking. It alters your thinking to the point where you get a certain perception about what's acceptable and what's not. You get another perception about who people are and how people use and misuse power. Um, so at some point, what do you call it? I got released after 3 weeks in 2002, and I had subsequent hospitalizations once a year. Um, there was restriction from information in psych wards. You couldn't use the internet. Well, you could use the internet, but you couldn't access your personal accounts. That was one thing. Um, you couldn't just make a phone call when you wanted to either, and there was no date or time exactly when you were allowed to leave. Um, at some point, like, one of the nurses was nice enough to take us out for ice cream, which was really bizarre. Like, they don't do that anymore. They do not do that anymore. Um, she, I guess she decided, like, fuck it. I'm breaking a rule here. And took us out for ice. They took us off the unit for ice cream. That was pretty crazy. They do not do that in adult units, because in an adult unit, what's going to happen? 9 out of 10, if they're really manic and they want to, they'll bolt. I've seen so many people bolt. I there were plenty of times in units where I could have ran, I could have escaped, but me being who I was back then, I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to do the right thing, which is to be told that I can leave. You always want to be told. After the first one, you're like, oh, I want to be told that I can leave. I don't want to just, like, escape anymore. I want to be told and escorted out that I can leave now, because that means I'm okay. That means I'm doing the right thing now. Now that I see, it's probably what kept me alive for so long, that it enabled me to survive in that environment. Um, you know, because when I'll tell you, they had me once, and in 2004, that was really tragically bad.
Um, they had me moved from floor to floor. They kept changing meds on me, and I was traumatized. I was basically traumatized. So at some point during the trauma, um, I tried to escape. I tried to jump the fence. There was a fence, and I tried to jump it, and they pulled me right back down. They wouldn't let me go over that fence, and I went to the wrong side of the fence. I should have gone to the other side of the fence and jumped it because I would have made it. I would have made it on the other side. Uh, they kept me in even longer after that. Finally, there's like a 2 month restriction on psych stays if you're acute. Uh, and so eventually, my mom really did the bailing out, but that's like was the absolute worst that I can remember. That the one in 2004, the adolescent one was okay because they treat you like a child. They treat you with respect as a child. But in the adult unit, no way, man. They treat you like an adult in there. And there's still a sense of being treated like a child because you're told what to do, you get force medicated. Um, but it was so alarmingly dangerous. And it was an all male unit. I was terrified. It might as well have been jail. Um, God, I'm exhausted. I got to keep going. I can't let up on this. This is really important for you guys to hear. I see where all this is going, and I'm really alarmed that I've held back for so long too that I'm just like, what else can I do at this point other than tell the truth about everything? What else can I do other than tell the truth? So 2010, I want to fast forward to 2010 because all that other stuff is fluff right now. The privacy stuff is important, but the fluff is out of the way. So 7/1/2010, I'm in the bed. I have this this epiphany, and I wake up. I say to myself, what was I right about? If an object is displaced in time, it will always return to its point of origin. So this is literally what I did. I hope my brother's not up because I don't want him to see me doing this, but I got up right from there. I got up. I went upstairs. Right? I'm going upstairs. And as I'm walking upstairs, right here, right in my own home, right here, right? I'm walking past the TV, right? This is way back in July 2nd, 2010. I walk past the TV. I lay on the couch. I lay on that couch right there. It used to be against the wall, but he's got it over there. So and I mulled on something for a bit. The flux capacitor. So I know that's crazy to everybody. The flux capacitor. I could see the flux capacitor in my head. I know that it sounds insane to most of you, but some of you conspiracy theorists out there know that technology works, that it does work. So when I woke up, when I got up from the couch, I immediately, there used to be a landline. Right here. The landline is gone now, but I called my mom, okay? And I was like, Mom, I just realized this, okay? If an object is displaced in time, it will always return to its point of origin. So the first person I called about it was my mom. I was so excited. I unveiled this piece of science that, to me, was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call. It was me reminding myself of something that happened in my own history that I remember. So, upon calling her from that landline, that landline that was in the kitchen, this TV turned on its own. It turned on its own. I didn't hit a remote. I didn't hit a remote. It turned on its own. And so it was so romantic. It was so deep. This is what happened on the screen. So when that TV turned on its own, Barack Obama was at the National Monument. You know, with the big pointy thing, the big pointy thing with the pool in the background, and he pointed at a casket. He pointed at a casket, and there were women in the background, mostly women, older women, and a woman with sunglasses. She put her sunglasses on like that, you know, as if to say, "That's it, game over." You know, I mean, and Obama said in that quote, in that moment, as he's pointing to the casket, as he's pointing down to the casket. I know this is so hard to understand for everybody, but this statesman never stopped thinking, and he was my friend. So, what does that mean to never stop thinking? What does that mean to never stop thinking? It means that if you all right, if you get stuck in the past and die in the past, right? So let's say my present self goes back to 2010, right? Goes back to 2010. We'll say this point here is 2020. Actually, let's make it 2036 in the future, and by some sort of event horizon, I end up back in 2010, and I pass through this moment in time where I am, you know, where I'm already dead, and you know, in a way, it was so romantic to me. It was so romantic the way that happened. So anyway, when that TV turned on, and he said that, it triggered something else for me to do. I drove my brother's car that day. Yeah, I drove my brother's car that day. So I went in a circle. It was almost a perfect drive. I drove my brother's car that day. I went in a perfect circle, and then I parked and went back in the house. So I go to the backyard to smoke a cigarette. I'm a pack-a-day smoker now, so what can you do? So I go to the back of the house. Second, that when that TV turned on, that was democracy dying. That was the day democracy died to me. That was when, for me, that was the day they violated my rights, to turn that TV on remotely and show me that. Yes, it was honoring me in a way. It was very special. It was very short. It was maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 second segment, but it was very, it alarmed. It had a reaction, had an instant reaction. It affected my thinking right away. So once that TV went on, I drove my brother's car. So whenever you drive a car without a time traveling device in it, you're traveling ahead in time. There's a truth to this. By a nanosecond into the future. A nanosecond. You're not going the speed of light. You know, even at 100 miles an hour, you're only going you're going into the future, you know, but you're doing it at an accelerated pace. So this caused a reaction in the timeline. Okay, so the reaction was that it started enough forward momentum in the future, okay, that it's what enables me to keep driving my brother's car, literally getting my brother's car for that 5-10 minutes, built up enough momentum for me to realize I can keep doing it, that I can keep driving and keep building momentum. Um, that's what time is, right? Time is forward momentum. Time is forward momentum. So, but there's also backward momentum in time. There is backward momentum. Um, so how do we get all three? How do we get time to A, have no momentum where there's no movement? How do we get time to go forward fast enough that we can go all the way back that way? Um, this is the stuff that they're going to figure out very, very quickly. We're going to all figure it out very quickly. And unfortunately, I don't think everyone is going to be able to use the technology. I think there'll be people that'll deny it too. Um, I think there'll be people that deny it too. Um, I have a friend that's very intelligent scientifically. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. Um, but he doesn't believe it can work. He doesn't believe it can work. So, um, yeah, his my eyes are kind of bugging out here. So, can I? No, not right now. Not right now. Yeah. My eyes are kind of bugging out here because I don't have my glasses on. Hold on. Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna keep communicating here while there's still time. While I still have time and memory on this phone. I'm probably not going to get to divulge everything, but when that TV turned on its own, my rights were violated. That day was really profound. I ran into myself. This whole chain of events happened where my brother from another house punched me. Um, from from outside my perspective, I actually, as this person, as a younger person of 25, when you go into your backyard to smoke a cigarette, see somebody open a window from another house that's your brother, and your brother going around their backyard, and you like crouching down so he can punch you as another, as a future person in the past. um, it's it's just really traumatizing, man. It's really traumatizing. It scares the shit out of you. um, it's not. I've never actually tried psychedelics. I should, but I've never actually tried psychedelics or psychoglobin or anything. But I'm sure if I had, I would have blamed it on that instead of being truthful and accurate about all this. Um, so this whole chain of events really, like, it was an eye opener. You know, um, that day was 7/1/2010 and 7/2/2010. We're just, that night was very powerful. It was very powerful. um, the night that TV turned on. um, yeah, I think back to it, and just those words, this statesman never stopped thinking. It really just, it still speaks to me. It still has some meaning to me. Um, unfortunately, I'm 36 now, so I was 25 when that happened, when that TV turned on its own and put that on display, and still no one believes me about it. No one believes me about it. So, yeah. Um, so I'm telling you guys from here, that's, while it was deep and profound, it was still wrong for them to do. it was still really wrong for them to do. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. There's no alternative outcome for me. It's just something that's there that happened. Um, but I ran into myself that day, and unfortunately, um, the other me, the me that got stuck in the past, because my brother drove away with the time traveling car, um, got stuck in the past, and I assume got arrested. There was a neighbor's car. It was a small Honda, um, dinky little car. I wouldn't touch it. Even if I were a thief, I wouldn't touch it. Um, but it was running that morning, and I still remember that car running. So, being stuck in the past, of course, what's going to happen? I'm going to remember it from that morning that the car was running. So, what am I going to do? What are you going to do? If you're stuck in the past and you still had to keep building forward momentum, then what do you have to do? You have to get in the car you don't want to get in. Unfortunately, this is the chain of events, guys. I'm. It's so hard to explain this to an outsider, but um, you know, it's strange to explain something that both has happened and hasn't happened yet. Um, and to still have to think about it, it's something that I have to live through in my life that I don't want to live through. You know, I haven't experienced it yet. At least the part about getting in that car, getting in that Honda Civic that's still running at 9 a.m. in the morning, that belongs to my neighbor, and driving it on 7/2/2010. It scares the shit out of me that I'm gonna be eventually I'll be this 40 some odd year guy, and the technology will have been invented, and whatever freedom of information is either capped or restricted, who knows what they decide on that. um, Willing to bet they're going to restrict more access to information. It's a force of nature. There's too many people on the side of it instead of against it. um, yeah, no, but what are you going to do? So anyway, since I'm probably running out of time. I'm always running out of time. I'm always running out of time. But you know, uh, once you're in that moment, when this event takes place, whatever pissed off my brother enough for him to punch me in the future, it's that's it. That's the event horizon that's going to take me down. You know, um, it'll be a shock. It'll just be shock. You know, I'm 36 now. I don't think that the time travel technology will be provable or fully developed until 2032 or 2034. I could be wrong. Um, it could be earlier. It could be later. I don't know. I don't know the thing with the timeline memory management system is that it it often never gives me specific dates, except for one thing, and that was that there would be a second quarantine, and it was supposed to be in March. Um, but I don't know. Now I don't know. Now I don't know. But there was supposed to be a second quarantine, apparently, in March of 2022, or yeah, it didn't happen, but that's what it suggested. So it who knows what they're gonna do? I mean, um, but my thing with the quarantine is that we don't know where the quarantine order originated from. It could have been from a state psychiatric hospital where they have a 70-year-old man, or I'd be, let's see, if the event horizon happens in 2036, where I go back to 2010, and I would be what, 1980s. Sorry, I have to use my digis here for it. I'll be what, I'll be about 47 when it happens. I'll be about 46, 47. So, for a 47-year-old to get stuck in the past and to finally find his freedom again in, 2039? I'll be in my 70s. I'll be in my 70s by the time this is verifiable truth. That'll be it. Yeah, that'll be it, really. I mean, um, when you have so much ambition and you look forward to that moment where you prove to everyone, hey, I I invented this. I told you I could. You didn't believe me, but I did it. I tried to do the impossible. You didn't believe it was possible, but yeah, that's what happened, man. Sorry. I know you guys had all these things to say about it, but sorry. That's you didn't believe me. You're lost at the end of the day. Actually, I think there'll be a lot of loss from it. More loss than gains, to be honest. They'll be thrilled to have the technology. People will be thrilled to have it. But there's limitations on what you can do with it. All right, so you can go back and communicate with yourself. You can do that. You can, if you had a back forward watch that runs on the principles that if an object is displaced in time, and it returns to its point of origin, you can always go to your past and communicate with yourself, and then go back to your point of origin where you left off. But here's the limitation: you'd have to remember that happening first. You'd have to remember that you went into the past and told yourself all this information. I have no doubt there's been people that have done that already. There have been people that have done that already. Great, you took my technology and used it, and told yourself whatever you wanted. Maybe it helped you, maybe it didn't. But the thing is, you have to live out your life either way. Maybe for that moment you got a touch of seeing yourself. You got to communicate and know your future. But it's up to you whether you believed it or not. Whoever you might be, it was up to you whether you believed it or not. And so now, but even after that moment, you would still have to go back to your point of origin. Otherwise, I don't know if you want to just hang out with yourself for the rest of your life. I don't think that would work out too well. You'd have a lot of arguments. Personally, me, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near myself. After what I experienced on July 2nd, 2010, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that moment in time at all. I would avoid myself like the plague. Because, I know the Back to the Future thing is that, oh, don't run into yourself, Marty. That kind of thing. But my one desire is that I wanted to change the events that occurred on that day. I can't. That's the limitation of the technology. Whatever you remember in your past, that it is what it is. It is what it is. There's nothing different. Yes, you can try reframing what happened or rewording it. But that is not that. It's not going to change your current circumstance. It's not going to create an alternate timeline where you're this rich boy. If you're a poor boy, you're a poor boy. Rich boy. That's it. I know it must sound like I'm extremely high at this point. I don't know. But yeah. So the reason I'm telling you guys all this is just that it circulates in my mind on a daily basis. I work too. I mean, I work through my ride sharing, and I do try to distract myself and keep busy with things. But this is a regurgitation. It's stuff that I think about every day. And since they're trying to engage these Internet Privacy Act thing with laws, um, I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed by it because it's gonna control access to information. It's gonna control access to information. Um, it might even implicate me in the future too, because if you have somebody like me who, um, you know, when my emails when my email got hacked into, and they deleted all those emails back in 2005 or 2006, whatever it was. Um, I got so offended that I decided to post a phone number on another website, and it had this whole reaction. Um, it was definitely a hack. It was wrong to do, um, but you know they definitely called her. They definitely called her. Um, if I found them now, I'd probably kill them. I'd probably kill them. As a 20, I guess I wait, 2006, I was 17, 18 or something, 19. Um, your feelings get the better of you. Children, teenagers, emotionally vulnerable. And so when you feel violated like that, when somebody hacks you and then deletes your emails, well, what's your reaction be? You're going to hack back. You're going to try to hack them back. Um, so it caused this whole chain of events that I still can't bring myself to talk about it. I still can't bring myself to talk about it. Um, but it damaged me for years. It damaged me for years when that hacker got in, man. Um, you know, guys, get your last hacks in, because this is it for the hacking world, really. There's not going to be much left to do. Um, there's not going to be much left you can do, I don't think. Um, Once quantum encryption takes place and everything gets switched over from classical to quantum computing, they're not going to be able to do it anymore. You're not going to be able to do it anymore. Not the same way as it's they already made it really harder, but um, I don't think you guys are going to be able to do it the same way anymore. You know, encryption codes are going to be gigantic, so you can't do that kind of thing. You've got biometric certifications, more privacy stuff. So this is really the end game for all you hackers out there, I think. And despite being hacked myself multiple times, um, you know, sometimes even having credit cards boosted, I think, or misused. Um, Definitely identity theft. Definitely that once or twice, I think. Um, yeah, this is the end game for y'all. For all you like black hats out there. I don't know where I fall. I'm probably a bit of a unicorn. I'm a bit of a unicorn. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Let's just do whatever. Let's just try to flip out this. I'm always trying to flip out the system. That's what I'm trying to do. And there's not going to be much you can do to flip it out. You know, um, as we approach 2030, we're in 2022 now, but 2030 things are they're gonna wind down for this United States, guys. It's really gonna wind down. Um, once the time travel thing is established to be true and factual, it's just gonna be like, what? This guy was not just high or on psychedelics or something. He was actually telling the truth the whole time, and you guys buried it and kept it a secret for so long. Um, it'll really change things, and I don't think it's going to change them for the better. Um, I really don't. Um, you know, there's a thing to be said about our spirituality, and yoga has taught me about spirituality, and you know, um, I I've explored some of that spirituality, but with the amount of technology and information out there, actually, I wouldn't have found yoga if it weren't for the amount of information out there. To be honest with you, but in the future, you know, um, the the level of technology will be that you won't need spirituality anymore. You won't really need it. You know, be semi-automated. Everything will be semi-automated. One of the things that the management system indicated, and it's something that a reason to invent it too, is that I need to check to see if this is true or not. That there will be a planetary nuking by 2081. Um, you would think you or I wouldn't be around, but if you're a time traveler that has the technology available, you could go forward and check to make sure. And that's what I want to do. I want to check to make sure to verify whether the management system is not just full of shit. The timeline memory management system. So, who's to say? Who's to say what? I mean, this is desperation, guys. This is me trying to avoid that punch in the face by my brother in the past. Because once it comes, that's it. That's it. That everything I worked for from now to 2036 and whenever that event horizon occurs, that's it. That's it. It's another game over, start somewhere else type of thing. So, yeah. So I've been going on for about 2 hours here. I'm not sure what else I could pump in here. There's so much I could go over. So much of the mistreatment in psychiatric wards too. 3 weeks at a time without being told when I'm going to leave. No one really communicating with me about anything, or telling me something wrong just to distract me. Billing me inappropriately. Telling me I'm insane instead of giving me a diagnosable mental illness or asking me a legitimate question is not the proper way to treat somebody. Assuming a psych nurse is your friend is also another thing you shouldn't do. They're not your friends, guys. They're not your friends. They're doing a job. They're paid to advise you and make sure you're taking your medication. They're not there to be your friend. So I had to learn that the hard way. They're not your friend. What else is going on? So 2 hours 13 minutes. So you guys know the nitty gritty. You know I've been hacked. I've done some freaking. Some freaking like light shit though. To get out of class or whatever. What's scary to me, okay, and this is really the scariest part of my conspiracy theory, is that when I was in '01 in Nassau University Medical Center in 2004 for that 2 months, and that was the most traumatic one. That was the one where they were setting me up and down. I was running naked in the unit. I was that panicked. I tried to call my friend at Tampa, and the number was blocked. It was blocked. And I look it up now, because it's a landline. I look it up now, and it's been blocked since like 1980. Since 1980, you can't call from a landline to Tampa since 1980. Since 1980. And you know what? That could have been a time travel move. That could have been somebody in the past that decided, well, to prevent this one person from making a phone call to his best friend, we need to block that 813 area code. That's fucked up. um, yeah, if you didn't know that, you can, if you call from a payphone. Now, not that there's any more payphones. I wish they were still around. They were great because you could call a cell phone that where you're not blocked, and call the number from the payphone and get a fucking answer from the person you were trying to get out to. I love that about payphones, man. Nah, you can't. Also, drug deals. Not that I've been involved with that, but back in the day, drug deals and stuff. So, but they're also pretty, like, I don't know. There's something about picking up a payphone, being like, But so in this psych unit, there was a payphone that you actually had to put quarters in to make a call, which is illegal. Which should be illegal, but I would try to call out from that payphone, and the 813 area code had been blocked out. I could not call her. I tried to get around it with a calling card. I still couldn't get around it. You cannot call. You couldn't call from a payphone to Tampa. Very scary to me. Very scary that somebody pre-planned that. So that, I'm telling you, somebody planned that. Somebody planned it out that way. Pretty scary. Pretty scary. Yeah. So, just thinking about things that are, again, it comes back to freedom of information. Now, what they do is they archive medical records. If it's over 10 years, they archive it now, which means they don't really want you to look at it. Yeah, there's stuff about me, man, that if you were to see on those files, I mean, first of all, most of the nurses' notes and the files back then weren't even legible. You couldn't even understand what they wrote. But for some of it, it was just like, what is this thought disorder that you're talking about? This is not true. They lied. They lied on paper that this happened, or they misunderstood, or they deliberately kept lying on the file about what was going on. Man, I'm so disappointed that hospitals, psych units especially, do that they lie on the notes. Maybe in a way it protects the individual for them to lie on the notes, but I mean, if that's your excuse for keeping them there longer, by saying they did this or that, or their thoughts are when they're not really communicating with anybody anyway, I because I learned fear, through psychiatric hospitalizations. I learned to keep my mouth shut. I would wait for discharge. I would assume that, not that the doctor had my best interests. That I don't believe. The doctor never has your best interests. If they say it's in your best interests, it really means it's in their best interests, not yours. But I would always keep my mouth shut and wait. I'd either wait for a mental health lawyer to show up, which they don't allow mental health lawyers on the unit anymore. Another restriction to information: they don't allow visitors on the unit anymore. What does that tell you? So we've got four wrong things happening in psych wards now. We have information being
we're being disinformed. A, always been disinformed in psychics. You always will get disinformed. Two, you're being, what do you call it? You're being restricted access to information. And three, there's no visitations from mental health lawyers or people anymore. And what else alarms me about the restriction of information there is that you lose yourself in the other patients. You lose yourself in the other patients because there's this sea of people that you don't know. And instead of trying to address the issue and wait for somebody to answer you, which I've become more proactive at trying to get questions answered. I don't just step down and wait anymore. I go in and say, hey, this, that, and the other. Can you tell me what's going on here? Well, why you guys have me up here? Huh? Why am I up here? What do you got me up here for? I'm taking my medication. Something wrong? So fortunately, I've recently had an evaluation about a month or two ago with my brother and I got into an argument, and which it was 24-hour wait to see the psychiatrist, and I was honest with him. I said there's a legal dispute between my brother and I, and I told him what happened. That he basically crushed my coffee can. I had one of those Java monsters. My brother crushed it, and he called the police and said I harassed him and assaulted him. It was crazy. Meanwhile, I'm telling him to stop filming me at the same time. He's recording me. I asked him to stop. He wouldn't stop. So this shouting match starts, and then he crushes my coffee can. So anyway, they wanted me to get evaluated. So, it wasn't like I was going to resist, because if you do that, then they're just going to cuff you anyway and beat you up. They're just going to beat you. They just will. Because it's about egos at that point. Who's if you play that card, it's just like you'll put on a display, but it won't feel too nice. So I just conformed. I got in the ambulance. I did what they asked, like you wanted me to, and they let me go after the psychiatrist saw me. So everything was cool. So we've got open house here tomorrow. The house is getting sold, and this is another alarming thing to me is that my brother coerced me into selling it. I don't want to sell. I have too many memories here. I'm very comfortable here. This mahogany bed that I built costs $3,000 of your taxpayer dollars. Actually, I get a disability check, and that's where it went. It went toward building a mahogany bed. So don't blame me. Blame that guy over there.